Alright, welcome back. We are here on Cozy Dog again. We're going to do another episode here, and we're going to at least start off. I don't know where this might take us, but we're going to start off going to Winding. Let's check the store really quick if it doesn't take forever to load. Spoilers, it did take forever to load, but we are back here. So one of the things I wanted to check, so you notice that flies are out of stock, at least for the cheapest one. Although, if you have the money to spend and you want to do a lot of float fishing at Winding, by all means, 100 silver is not that bad for 300 flies. If you really dedicated yourself to it, the amount of silver you would make on bleak and frogs, mostly bleak, would be pretty incredible. So it's not impossible to get flies. Sometimes stock, if there's a lot of new players and the meta is kind of like everybody recognizes how important flies are for bleak, sometimes they will be completely out of stock or just so expensive that it's just impossible. So we're going to fish at Winding Rivulet here. This is the first time I do believe that we're fishing here at Winding. Spoilers, it took forever again. Alright, let's see what baits are available. So here it's even worse on flies. Another thing you can use though is bloodworm, for at least for bleak. So we will get some cheap bloodworms. You can also go casters. They're expensive. I mean, 42 is not too bad for 300 because just casters are such a cheap bait. I'm just saying in general they're like, stock is out a little bit. The smallest size hooks are not available, although you will notice that what we're about to do, one of the two spots at least, we're going to try using a size, what am I trying to say, 5.2. We're going to be using a size 22 hook, and we're going to try garlic dough. I gotta tell you, I am tempted to put a leader on, but I guess we won't. For this first spot we're going to try to catch a gudgeon, to be honest. We're gonna go to about, I don't know, 125. Let's see if we can get this to work. So I guess we don't have a map. Let's go to the administration building. It's just no fun to fish somewhere without having a map. Couple things to just tell you about with Winding Rivulet. Spin fishing is better here than Mosquito. This is the other map you can go to from the very beginning when you first create an account. Float fishing is also quite good here. Bottom fishing can be really good as well. This is definitely an all-around early map. So this is one of the neat things about Winding is the farmers market. This is the only place you can purchase some of these things in the game. Like feed. Eventually when we're leveling up ground bait, we'll want to start using feed as our base. We're not there yet. You can also craft potatoes. You might remember seeing that before when we started crafting that tea, potatoes was an option. And this is the only place to get chicken eggs. I say it's the only place. It's one of the only places, if not the only place. The other really important thing about Winding, and this is just for people who make lures, this is the hardware store, by the way. This is not what I was about to show you. At the very end of the path here, I think this is where it is, there is a wood making spot. You know what, now that sawmill. So in this, if you're making lures, you actually have to purchase the wood from this sawmill to make a lot of the lures. Okay, let's go fish. I just wanted to show you a couple things about Winding since we first got here. We're going to be going all the way kind of up in the corner to 111, 126. Now, we're going to be using garlic dough. While we're fishing, I'll take a look and see if I can find if there's other baits that gudgeon are really liking at the moment. There are plenty of other baits that you can sometimes catch gudgeon on. I just saw someone talking about on VK that gudgeon were really liking garlic dough at this spot up here. So I thought we would try it. I just want to kind of show you some of the float fishing you can do on this map. All right, we are almost there. It's right in this corner. All right, so right here, we're gonna do, remember we've got depth at about 1.25 meters, so you put plus and minus to change that. We're gonna cast it, I don't know, about 70% out. No, we're gonna cast it a little farther because we don't have any points and we're just not very good casters. And then I'm gonna come over here while we're waiting to see if we get a bite. And I'm gonna look at RF4 data. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for. RF4 info. I think we're getting a bite, by the way. Yes, we are. All right, let's see if we got a gudgeon. Looks like we did. All right, 42 gram gudgeon, worth 549 experience. But should be pretty decent silver. And just fun to be able to like target a fish like this. Okay. So is this what I was looking for? No. Well, actually, I'm not sure. This is the one with interactive maps. It shows cafe orders and stuff. I couldn't tell if it was on there or not. Oh, I don't want to max cast it, I don't think. Let's just go like 70 to 80% here. So if it's not that website, oh, it's RF4 stat. Maybe I was right the first time. All right, we're going to winding, different types of fish, gudgeon, 16 bait. Oh, here we go. I just wanted to give you some more options and not leave you hanging with only garlic dough. If you're a new player, you may not have garlic dough. The only reason why we have it right now on this account is because we went and took the trip to Copper, and you keep the baits that you don't use while you're there. Garlic dough is a great bait, but you know you have to level up your bait harvesting a good bit before you can craft it. We actually caught a roach on it that time. All right, other baits that the gudgeon had been going for: bloodworm, worm, red worm, and garlic dough are the top 4. Not sure why we're getting that bounce, but I'm just going to leave it alone until we get a real bite. Pearl barley is also okay, but those top 4 are the like gems. So what I want to do is with our size 22 hook. Oh, is that a white bream? Oh, a regular bream. Love it. All right, with our size 22 hook, let's throw on first of all a worm. If you can ever do something with a worm, it's worth doing it because the bait's basically free. Not just basically free. Once you have the shovel like we do, I mean, it just simply is free. Get a worm anytime you want to, and oftentimes more than one. I couldn't tell, but it looked like there might have been a fish biting, so let's go ahead and cast this back out and see what happens. So we'll try worm and then maybe bloodworm here and see if we catch a couple gudgeon. And then we're going to go catch bleak. Bleak is, of course, the fish I've been telling you about on float. And I think garlic dough is definitely a faster bite rate from what we've seen. But, I mean, worm is always going to work. It's just a question of how often will it catch the gudgeon versus like a small roach or something. We're so close to level 14, by the way. I just want to show you a couple spots here, 2, 3, 4 spots here while we're fishing at winding today. We're not going to necessarily like just farm forever spots, but all right, let's try bloodworm before we go to a bream spot. Let's just see if bloodworm does anything. Could not tell if that was... Again, garlic dough just seemed to work a little better. If you really want to catch gudgeon, or if you're trying to fulfill a cafe order for gudgeon, I think you could do it here with some of these other baits. They're working on gudgeon, but garlic dough does seem to be working especially well right now for these gudgeon. Okay. Let's try fly, and we're going to take the depth all the way up to 18 meters. Sorry, 18 centimeters. And we're going to go just around the corner here to 107, 123. And this is just absolutely, all right, 18 centimeter depth. This is absolutely one of the killer bleak spots. When this spot is active, it truly is just amazing. Now, we don't have... One thing that we don't have that we could, there's a telescopic rod fishing task complete. One thing that we don't have that we could is just a smaller line or a fluorocarbon leader. I think with float fishing though, you might have to, yeah, you can't use a leader till 40%, so we couldn't use a leader even if we wanted to, but we could put on a little bit smaller line and might do a little better, but we should be able to do fine on this, especially in the muddy water of winding rivulet. Sometimes cautious fish or trophies, you know, they might be a little bit cautious if your line is like overly thick from what they're used to. But I mean, you see how quick the bite is. Like, oh, that's a nice, oh, that's a roach, sorry. I was like, man, that's a good sized dace is what it looked like to me. All right, there's level 14. But you see how quick this bite rate is with flies. I will show you a couple other baits in just a second. See if other bleak baits are working just as well. Did I change the hook size? Oh, that's a mistake. So 22s will work, but especially when you're going for bite rate and you're just trying to like farm it at a low level, it's much better to go size 24 hook for bleak. The 22 was for gudgeon. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's not like the best time of day for fishing, but we're still catching them. Sort of a hot time of day, I guess. Beautiful. Should be a bleak, the way it went down. So one of the reasons why bleak is such a good fish to farm, by the way, let's put on pearl barley. If you don't have pearl barley yet, just do a little bit of crafting. Dig, make some bread till you unlock it. Pearl barley is very easy to unlock. It's the first thing you unlock after you, you know, make enough bread and dig enough worms. And pearl barley often works just as good for bleak as flies. Sometimes better, sometimes a little worse, but often it's just right there neck and neck with flies. So if flies are too expensive to get, then you just want to make pearl barley as quickly as you can. Of course, you'll occasionally catch roach on pearl barley and maybe even dace, but the part of why you have it sitting so high in the water at 18 centimeter is that fishing on the top like that tends to just get a lot more bleak than anything else. That's going to be a bleak, 100%. So the reason why bleak is so good to fish for is that it's not like these bleak are nibbling. As you see, when they take the bait, they just take it. And sometimes it's almost immediately like this. And it just works out really well. You don't have to wait for nibbles. You don't have to figure out, wait, is that nibble now a bite or whatever. The bleak and the dace, but mostly the bleak, just take it straight down. There we go. Oh, it came off. All right, so I've shown you pearl barley. I've shown you fly. Let's now look at the same thing with bloodworm. Bloodworm, very cheap bait, always available. At least I don't ever remember seeing it not available. And I won't say that it works as good as pearl barley and fly, but it's awfully close. Man, we're just finishing tasks like crazy. It's awfully close. I mean, obviously it's very good. I mean, they're just coming right on them like crazy. And somebody at this very spot in chat just caught a trophy bleak, which of course does not surprise you at all. That's a nice one. It's a nace though. If that was a bleak, it'd be a very nice one. But nace, dace, bleak, they're all worth catching here on float. There's a little bleak, not quite a marker. All right, see the little nibble? It still could be a bleak, but you know, when you see the nibble, you're like, ooh, is that a roach? Yep, that one was a roach. Which is not as good, obviously. I mean, even if it was a marker roach, it wouldn't be as good as a bleak, but with the size hooks and baits we're using, it's going to most likely be less than a marker roach. Boy, I sure hope we get lucky on the cafe here. If we get back and there's like no bleak cafe orders, first of all, that'd be fairly unusual. Like typically you've got one. And it would also just be sad since we've done all this bleak fishing. But the cool thing about bleak orders here and Mosquito, it's kind of like the rough orders at Mosquito, sometimes Crucian Gibbles as well. Sometimes you'll have cafe orders where you can get paid even if your bleak are sub marker. In other words, they're not even with the check mark. Like this one does not have a check mark, but it would be good enough for some of the cafe orders. Yep, that was my fault. I thought I could see it out of my peripheral vision, but I didn't. I did not see it quick enough. And there's a marker, I think. Nope, not quite. All right, before we go anywhere else or do anything else, I want to show you back. I'm going to go back to flies as a bait. Just because I think right now flies might be the like #1 bait. It does rotate, but I think flies are just working really well right now, and I'd love to catch a couple more marker size. Ooh, is that our first dace? Yeah. So dace are not quite as plentiful as bleak, but seeing that we just caught a dace, I'm immediately going to switch to caster, and I'm going to go to 34, 35 meter depth and just see what happens. Oh, we got it. All right, let's see what this is. All right, it's a roach. That's okay. So the dace are just worth more silver, even than the bleak. That's why I'm checking this out. So you go a little bit deeper. Dace will bite on the top where the bleak are, but they do tend to do even better if you go just a slight bit deeper. You'll still catch the bleak, like here's a bleak, but you'll have some dace mixed in, which, like I said, especially if you get one around a kilo in size, I mean, you're talking really nice silver at that point. Especially for, you know, if you're very low level. for how cheap the bait is, for how easy this fishing technique is, it's a way to really grind out some amazing silver. If you ever find a spot where dace are doing pretty good, then just keep fishing it. Level up your float fishing, hopefully catch bleak at the same time like this one, but occasionally hit a nice dace. At least that's the idea. Another bleak. You can see the bleak are pretty hot and heavy here because that's mostly what we're catching. All right, so I'm going to go back to fly, back to 18 centimeter depth. Let's see if we can just hit a really solid bleak here. What's the highest one we've had so far? 67 grams. Let's see if we can get closer to 100 grams. Now the big thing is such a quick bite rate. We're just leveling up our float fishing so fast. All right, fake bite. Now here's the next level. I don't want to overwhelm you, but if you feel like you've really got this down with the bleak fishing, introduce a second rod to the mix. .1 is fine. That float is fine. I sort of have this clock in my head. I know how long the typical bite takes. Now, if you get one of those immediates, then I just would have been out of luck. But typically, I've got that time to set this up for just a second. All right, we go to a 24 hook. We're using fly on the other one. Let's put pearl barley on this one. Let's pick it up and switch because I think there's a fish on. There is a fish on. All right, 62 gram. That's close to it. All right, now this one we're going to also put at 18 centimeter depth. Cast it in. Now we've got two floats in the water. We stand between the two. We've got number 1 for the left one, which is now on the right side. And I just pushed the wrong number. I'm sitting here trying to show off, and I pushed the wrong number, but we still caught the fish. And we also have a bite over here now. So we get ready to catch that. That one was on pearl barley. Now we cast number 2. Press number 1 to pick it up. Cast number 1. Now number 1 again is on the right side, which messes with my brain, but hopefully I'll be able to push the right button this time. So we've got fly and pearl barley out there. And of course you could do this with 3. Honestly, when there's a current though, I prefer 2 at the max. If there's no current, then I will do 3 at times. All right, we're getting a bite on pearl barley. Now keep watching the number one. If it doesn't get a bite and it gets to the max, then I will pull it up. Oh, it got a bite at the very end. So now we're kind of off kilter a little bit, but oh, number 2's getting a bite. Let's see if I can set this down in time. Yep, we got it. 48 gram bleak, love it. Oh, number 1 just got a bite. And I think we got it. So if this looks intense, it is pretty intense, but it's good practice, honestly. Challenge yourself a little bit. It's going to increase the amount of bleak per 15 minutes or whatever that you're catching. And it's just going to level up your float fishing that much faster. All right, I think we've got a little weird bite on 1. Yeah, that was a strange one. It was just like running with it a little bit. We are getting towards the end of the day, so the bite rate's going to slow down. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take this off of this rod, pick this up and catch this fish. We're going to cast it one more time after this. Maybe 2. Let's see if we can get 1 or 2 more markers here. But as you get closer to nighttime, the bleak bite will slow down a little bit. They're not active overnight. But sometimes you catch a nice one at this time of day. They're just not quite as good a bite rate. There's another 52 gram one. All right, let's cast this out again. Once again, we are sort of up in the corner of the map. right in here, G3. If you don't see the float, you've probably got a fish on. There we go. Over 100 grams. I just wanted to be able to show you like the price difference at the market, catching one that's 60 grams versus 100 grams. And once you get going and you level up your float fishing, the more you level up float fishing, so we're at 9.7% out of 100 right now, the higher you get, the better results you'll have. There's a 40 gram again. I mean, this spot is just so good. I mean, if you look at by weight, and we go to just bleak, we've got 13 markers. If we had been here all day, if we have a little bit higher percentage, you know, fish with 2, I mean, there's no telling how many markers we could have in a short time. All right, last bleak. Let's try to catch one more here. All right, cool. Let me look and see something really quick. All right, it looks like I was looking at recent VK reports, and so many of the spots were talking about where we were just fishing. Looks like that is a really good bleak spot right now. I think there's some maybe challenges that involve, I don't know, a certain amount of, I don't remember what it is, but there's a reason why a lot of people are fishing in that and similar spots right now. So anyway, catching bleak like that, finding the active bleak spots, a lot of people will tell you, and they have a good point. Like, that's a really good way when you first get started in this game to make a lot of that early silver, so you can buy some of the like feeder setups, like what we purchased at Copper, or when we left Copper. And part of it is just bleak or decent in the first place. Another part of it is you often see them in the cafe. So here we go, 5 from 29. This is exactly what I was talking about. We're getting 22 silver for 5 bleak that were worth nothing. Pretty much nothing. So that's a ton of silver. We also need to double check. So we can do this common roach order. It's 4 of them, and half of those are non-markers. So that's another 8 silver. I'm sure that's worth it. Dace, I mean, we're 1 dace away from another 25 silver. Gudgeon, we're 3 gudgeon away from 18 more silver, and they don't have to be big. So if we had farmed gudgeon, any non-markers we would have caught, we could have turned in for that. I mean, there's just all kinds of really good cafe orders that pops through this place. This is another spot that I'll just tell you, I don't know that it's necessarily active right now, but this is often a place where you can catch bleak, dace, same kind of thing. You also can throw the spinnerbait out around here for perch. You can put your feeders in for a little bit of everything. But especially float fishing in this little spot, a lot of times some of the small fish are pretty active right here. Looks like we caught a nice little dace, not quite marker size, but it was a dace. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Like if the bleak are not active, then you're more active, you're more likely to eventually get a dace on fly, which is kind of weird, but because even if the bleak are active, if dace are also present, you eventually will, like we did, you'll eventually hit the dace, but without the bleak, all that's left is just to wait for a dace to bite. But bleak might be active here too. That is a dace. Okay, well let's go down to 25 centimeters. I mean, it's also nighttime is the other thing, but let's see if we can get one more dace bite before the end of the day. I do want to show you another spot for this, for bleak, a very reliable couple of spots over at the pond here. All right, it's pretty late. Dace and bleak are just pretty much gonna stop feeding at night. So I'm not expecting to see much here, but just in case. Oh, nibble. Hopefully it's not a roach though, that's a long nibble. Oh, it ended up being pretty aggressive. I'd say that's a dace. Yeah. So we are catching dace here. We're still leveling up float fish. All right, so let's look in the general fish market. What was that dace? The dace order had to be 60 grams, yeah. All right, so did we do free food here yet? All right, let me show you the fish market. So let's sort by price. All right, 100 gram bleak, 6 silver. The nace, 5.8 silver, and the dace, 5 silver. I mean, all of these. And once you go over 100 grams on the dace, they jump up a little bit. Really nice. See the gudgeon? 53 gram gudgeon, 2 silver. I mean, maybe not the best, but again, everything adds up. All these little tiny little minnow-like fish that you're catching on float sell for a lot. All things considered, I mean, that's 57 silver in almost no time at all. If you go just bleak and just look at our marker bleak, it's 40 silver just on those few bleak we caught. Plus the cafe order we got, other cafe orders you're often going to see here. All the bleak, 41 silver. It's just really good if you ask me. Really good. That's going to put us up over 100 silver. All right, let me go spec out the other spot for you. Couple more things I want to show you here at Winding while we're on this episode. And again, we're not going to sit and really like farm a spot, but we're just going to fish here and there, and then we'll wrap this episode up. This is just like an informative Winding Rivulet spot. Winding Rivulet need to know in this early in this leveling series. It's possible at a different point we'll come back and farm here. I don't know. But this is another spot. Okay, so I'm going to put the fly. Let's just pretend like it's daytime. This would be another great spot to fish for bleak. I'm going to show you 2 spots here in the pond for bleak. Let me show you on the map where we are. I don't know why I can't get that to cast farther, but that's fine. So we're up here in this pond. If you fish in this pond, just pretend like you're at Mosquito Lake again. Most of the same things you will catch at Mosquito Lake, you'll catch here. All right, let's put our 2 feeders on, and let's try to give you an example. All right, we've got Semolina on this one. That's fine. Let's go Semolina with Crucian Gibble. Let's go 22 hook just to have a better bite rate, because I don't know what all's active right here. But this is almost always. I'm going to do a 12 clip. I mean, you can do 10, 12, something like that. And then on this one, let's go with a 16. No, let's go with 22 again, just for bite rate's sake. And let's just play regular bread. All you might have is bread. That's great. Just use bread. So I'm going to do this. I don't want to get it snagged in those weeds, so I'm trying to cast left of the weeds, which we did good. All right, so obviously we're not going to catch a bleak right now, but you often can catch crazy amounts of bleak in this spot. The reason why we're not catching it now is because it's overnight. I do think this spot probably is fairly active for bleak at the moment, but... Alright, so we caught a nice gibble here. That's a 448 gram gibble. Let's go ahead and put on a 16 size hook. Same bait, Semolina, just a little larger hook. Seeing that they're that healthy here right now, I'm like, let's put on a little bigger hook and see what we can do. And here's another one, I think. Another nice gibble carp, and that one was on bread. Let's go to 16 on this one with bread. Although we need to have some ground bait on there. And we've got 10 and 12 clips right now. Bread is at 10, and the Semolina is at 12 clip. All right, so at nighttime, yeah, you're not going to be catching bleak or frogs, but let's go to 80 centimeter depth with just a worm on there, and let's see if we catch anything at night. Golly, man, without points in float, and maybe it's just because it's a smaller rod than I'm used to normally using on my main. Just having a hard time casting it. This is a nice fish, by the way. That is a chunky, almost, yeah, 1.1 kilo gibble carp. It's amazing. All right, we're gonna give it a second, see if we can get a fish on this, on the float. So see at nighttime what I'm doing with float, if I still want to level up float, I'm lowering the bait down towards the bottom, and I'm putting on, in this case I put on worm, you could do worm, bread, whatever. I'm just trying to open myself up to other species because I know that the bleak and the frogs aren't going to feed this time of day. And I just messed up that bite, unfortunately. And this, again, this is where, like, it's not as fun to float fish for crucian, gibbles, that kind of stuff, because they nibble forever. And if you're used to fishing, float fishing for bleak and that kind of stuff, you have to retrain your brain to just wait for the actual bite and not just all these nibbles. I did it again. All right, so let's now, I want to show you one more spot. It's like not that different of a spot. It's just right over, kind of to the right of where we're standing. Oh, did I get it ghost snagged? Yeah, that's a ghost snag. Oh, I think we got it loose. You usually can't get it loose, but we did get it loose. Okay, we're gonna go right over here, still in the pond. And we'll put our feeders down first just to see what we catch. Let's do a 15 clip from here. See where that lands. Let's just do like a 20 clip from here as well. All right, but this is, again, this is for bleak. So normally I would have 24 hook, bleak, fly, pearl barley, bloodworm. You'd be at as shallow a depth as you can go, 18 centimeter, and you just cast straight out, just right in front of you. You can typically catch bleak like this all day, every day. And like I told you before, when you don't have a current like this, when there's no current, you could probably handle having 3 rods out. And then you're just the amount of fish you're going to be catching as you get used to, you know, juggling that many float rods. It's going to be through the roof. Because you don't have to worry about the current. This is obviously just sitting in the pond. There's no current. And that just makes your life so much easier. So again, just sort of showing you here that in this pond, it's basically as if we're fishing at mosquito. We're catching crucian, gibble. During the day, we're catching Chinese sleepers, or early morning, we're catching Chinese sleepers, bleak, frogs, tench. I'm sure there's occasionally maybe pike or perch up here, although those can be on the main river as well. I mean, just about anything you catch at mosquito. Not every species is also here, but a lot of them are. And that's basically just what we're doing. And so if you see stuff on the cafe order, this is a good place to come to fulfill that cafe order. All right, now, the last thing I want to show you, and let me get the right coordinates here. We're actually going to go to 105.94. 105.94, which is going to be right over here. And that's an unusual spot. Not that I haven't ever fished there before, but it's not a super common one. And but I also should kind of tell you about the normal spot for this kind of fishing. I don't know. Maybe I do want to just take you to the normal spot. Am I locked in here? I don't remember this. Are we not able to get over to the main? Golly, I guess we are locked in. I thought this connected. Okay, it connects here. But you can't get there. That's so interesting. I forgot it was like that. 2:30 in the morning. We still have time. Just want to sort of show you what's kind of like a staple of winding rivulet, especially at night, but frankly all day. I mean, you can do this 24/7 when I'm about to show you. Did we ever get free food? Like, we're so hungry. I can't imagine that we got free food, but maybe we did. No, we did not. Already forgotten the spot. 105.94. Pretty much just want to head straight to the water. 105.94. Oh, it's actually right here. You can see we're on 94 already. So if we just head straight east, we should run into it. $105.94. Wow. Yeah, this is a farther up than what I'm used to. All right. We need to get rid of this. All right, let's just start on these two. We're going to go no ground bait. You know, doesn't really matter, but we're going to go no ground bait. Let's go back to 22 hook, and we're going to use redworm clip of 10. And I also want to put in same thing, but we'll just use regular worm on this one because it does similar. It's like redworm is the slightly better version of regular worm in this kind of situation at winding. But the moral of this story is that there are going to be spots here at all right. Let's put the 15 on. There's going to be spots here at winding. And another one will be, did we do 10 clip on that? It sure looks different. Oh yeah, I guess it's just settling. All right, another one was gonna be right down here near camp. There's a couple different spots, same kind of thing, around 10-meter clip, where you're just casting it out with worm or redworm or regular worm. So this one's regular worm, this one's redworm. And you're going to literally catch about half of the species available in the water. I mean, or that's what it will feel like. So we got a rough there. This is a great way to level up your bottom fishing because you are catching such a wide variety of fish. You're gonna see just a lot of different species. There's a really rare species called the Donit's Ruff that you can sometimes get. Which is worth a lot of XP and silver, but mostly you'll just be catching just a weird variety of rough, occasional perch. You'll see both types of what are they called? Both types of the zebra mussel and the river mussel. You might have just all kinds of different fish. See what this is. An eyed, you'll catch white-eye bream, occasionally blue bream, you'll catch regular bream. I don't know, so many fish. And that's why I guess it's a good place to level up bait harvest, bottom fishing, is because it's a nice bite rate. You're often catching really nice sizes of those particular fish. And so you just tend to get a really good chance at leveling up your bottom fishing. Is this the redworm? Yeah, and redworm is going to have the superior bite rate typically because it opens you up to a few more species that regular worm might not. So here's an example, river mussel. Another thing that you'll occasionally see, just like the random cafe order to catch a river mussel, frankly, they're not worth that much silver by themselves. And if it's a high level player, what they're doing with river mussels is they are making river mussel as bait. They're actually turning it into a bait that you can then catch things like sturgeon on and that kind of thing. So then it's like worth way more silver because of what you're catching on it. Getting a nibble, but that's okay. All right, and one last thing I'll show you, just like theoretically. I'm sure we're not going to catch anything because I'm literally just going to toss one out for a second here. But if you're into spin fishing and you find yourself trying to find good places, that is not the best combination here. All right, let's use the Fury, just a small little lure. This is probably a perch. Oh, it's a gibble. Sometimes you even get the Crucian gibbles out on the main river here. All right, so we have a little spinnerbait here. Let's just cast down the river and then do a constant retrieval back towards us. Let's just see if we happen to get a lucky perch or something. But if you're into spin fishing and you're low level, brand new player, this is the place to just walk up and down the river and try to find little spots with some of these spinner baits to occasionally catch a nice fish. I don't know, I feel like that's a little slow. Let's go up to like 30 maybe. Let's cast it straight down this way. Now, we'll do a lot more of this type of fishing at Belaya, which is another river that we go to, and we'll have some really good sessions there, potentially, hopefully. But this is the place before you get to Belaya where you can start to experiment with this kind of fishing a little bit. All right, this is just so small. Let's try the little bit heftier one. We'll do one more cast before we move towards wrapping this up. There's a regular bream. And once again, another rough. Alright, we'll try one more cast here. This may just not be a good spot, but I thought we would just cast it a couple times. And again, you know, you may see spots that are working on VK or other resources if you're in Discords or whatnot, but trying to just catch perch and that kind of stuff, you really can just walk the bank here at Winding Rivulet. It's not that big of a map. Just find spots that look like they might work, and they probably will. The hardest part is, frankly, just finding the right lure. But once you find a lure that's working, you can kind of cast it wherever, and I think run a decent chance at catching something. We'll cast one more time, like just somewhere else, but I don't usually do, when I'm doing these leveling guides, I don't typically do a lot of spin fishing until I get to Belaya, or even beyond sometimes. Usually it's at Belaya, but that's just me. Some people start spin fishing the moment they begin fishing, create their account. I like this little spot we're trying though. We're going right through that green stuff to the left of the reeds. Just feels like this could be a thing. Boy, that was alarming. All right, so I'm gonna put myself on the right side of this fish. Oh, it did get away. And I was taking a chance there, but I mean, that fish was so big and aggressive, that was going to be a pain in our booty for sure. Man, I guess I could have waited a little longer. What I was trying to do is position myself where the current was going to work for us and not against us. We already had a fish on that's way big for our setup, for our gear. So I didn't want the current also helping it wreck our day. Okay, so this is a little chub. That makes me think that probably was a chub that we caught. And those bigger chub, they are nasty, definitely. For this little setup, and we don't even have it set up ideally, to be honest. We've got a very, very weak lure that we're using, a weak reel that we're using, but I'd say there's a pretty good chance that was a chub. Just a bigger one the first time. But I'm glad we caught that. I'm glad we saw those tube strikes, because it's just, I think it's a good reminder that if you want to do some spin fishing, I mean, just walk around. This map is not that big, but you just find spots off this main river where the fishing is good. I'm not going to go down there, but camp is right here. I'll let you explore that, or we'll see it on another episode. But there's a lot of good fishing at camp as well. There's some deeper areas there, but a lot of good bottom fishing can be done at camp. And honestly, that's where a lot of the good spin fishing is too. But just be ready for some big fights. There are some decent sized fish that you can run into here. Before I forget it, let's go ahead and disassemble this in case we want to get that other reel next time. All right, we'll double check cafe order one more time, and then we will wrap this one up. I hope this has been helpful, though. I really just wanted to introduce this map to you. Winding Rivulet is great. There's a lot more to explore here than what I've shown you in this short episode, but this is at least hopefully an introductory to some of the things that are available, especially for a lower level player. So yeah, it would have been nice to try to finish the Dace thing, obviously. Where's our 22 hooks? I put them on both of our... If nothing else, we know that Dace is biting on fly. Let's go back pretty shallow, maybe right at, we'll do 22. We'll match the hook size. I just want to make sure we don't get a lucky Dace for that cafe order, because that would be a game changer in terms of the amount of silver. See if the bleak are biting here now. Telling you, if this is really happening, this is incredible. What's a little unusual about this, again, like I was explaining before, is to be catching such a high percentage of Dace. We've got to try another bait, though. That's the only downside, is we're catching them on fly, and flies are just hard to get. Although if you're catching Dace on fly, then it's even easier to justify spending 100 silver to get 300 flies. I mean, this really would be a farmable spot. I don't care what level you are. This is interesting. 111 gram Dace, guys, and this was on the cheap bait. This is on caster. We might have stumbled upon something here that, if you are watching this and you are a lower level to mid-level player, if you can come make this work for you, it's worth doing. Especially if you were interested in leveling up float fishing and or just trying to make some like pretty quick and easy silver. I mean, I'm used to Dace. You know, when I'm targeting Dace, it's often like, I don't know, once every 4 casts that you get a bite. We went on a stretch just now where we caught like 3 in a row. Now we are in the morning. As the day goes on, it will probably it'll change. You'll start to see them get a little smaller maybe, or they might be a little less consistent, but still worth doing. Oh, come on. All right, so we're at 22. Let's just go to 30, see if that helps or doesn't help. I would normally have instinctually put the depth at about 30 for Dace. 18 for Bleak, but I think of 30 to 40 or so for Dace. I think it changes with spots and maybe time and baits, but it's what I would have thought of. Right when it gets to that end point, maybe we don't cast it quite as far away. Do I still have that website pulled up where we can search by Dace 18 baits? Oh, is that a Bleak? Okay, we did catch a Bleak. That's interesting. All right, so Caster, Fly, Bloodworm. Those are your top 3 on Dace. And all 3 of those will catch Bleak. There's really not a way that I can think of to catch Dace and completely avoid the possibility of Bleak. Okay, now we're catching really nice Bleak that have showed up. On Caster, which I love. I don't think you're going to find a better bait than, I mean, I would rather use Caster than Fly. And so if those are the 2 choices that are both working pretty good, I would go Caster. It's just cheaper and easier to get. Might be worth testing Bloodworm. It says Bloodworm is the 3rd most frequented bait for Dace records right now. Be a Dace. All right. We saw another Dace. That's good. I'm starting to think we dreamed them. A couple Bleaks there. Oh my goodness. That's going to be a Bleak, right? No, it's a Dace. Oh, another beautiful Dace. Wow. We got to dig quicker. That was just straight right here in front of us. There it goes again. Dace again. This is sick. Right here every time. Go. You're a little late this time. You're a little late this time. You're a lot late this time. I'm being patient this time. Super patient. Silly patient. Oh my goodness. Okay. Thanks for letting me have a little fun there. Okay, a couple of days here. Let's do the cheapest ones. So there's 25 more silver. We're up to 89. We haven't even sold our other fish yet. Oh, a trophy dace for 143 silver. Oh, it's so tempting, isn't it? We'll let someone else go get that one. 82 more silver. That's 172 silver. Guess what that means? You got it without even thinking twice. We're going to get our third feeder kit. Okay, my question for you all. We're down to 23 silver. My question for you all is, are you ready? Not this next episode, but soon. Are you ready for our first Norway trip? We've done our first copper trip. When do we do our first Norway trip? There is one lure, couple of soft baits that I'd want to purchase first, but we can do that anytime. I'm ready if you're ready. So we'll think about that. All right, so we did an introductory to Winding Rivulet this time. Last episode, we did hit a lot of the current spots at Mosquito. There's a couple other ones, but so we really did sort of give an introduction to what a lot of the fishing is like at Mosquito. Maybe we work in an introductory, an episode farming bream, just a night of bream at Old Berg. That might feel appropriate for our next episode. We'll see what's active, but that's an idea. Anyway, hopefully that's what's coming up soon. Old Berg bream, first trip to Norway. That's what I'm thinking. All right. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. By the way, next time I will read chat for the last couple of episodes. We'll get caught up on chat a little bit. All right. Thanks for the support.